Okay, so before we get started, I just wanted to show you something here. I like to create a folder or a directory with the locomotive files that I'm thinking of using. That way, you know, if I program this with one of the files, I don't like the sounds or bells and whistles don't seem to line up or something, I can try another one. So I'm going to start with the GM file, and I think this is probably the one I'm going to stick with. But just wanted to show you. I put all my locomotives in a directory of different sound files. It's good to have them all for reference in case I have to reprogram something one day. I have everything listed right here. So I'm going to go back to the Western Pacific folder. All right, we're going to close this window for now. We don't need that just yet. Power is on, and got the remote ready to go. Got the laptop on, recording the screen. We'll see how this works out. I've never done this while programming before. Just something else to show you here too. I do have a fan. So I have that blowing on the bridge rectifier mainly, and just the overall board. Since I don't have the dielectric grease installed yet between the heat sink and the bridge rectifier, I like to keep this cool. Again, I've had some of these that can take up to 45 minutes. So we'll see how long this one goes, and let's get started. Okay, so now we've downloaded the sound file from the MTH website. What I did is I just created a folder on my desktop, and we put the zip file in that location. And what you want to do now is extract the contents of that zip file to that same folder, and you'll get two files that come out of there. You'll get a chain file, which we're not going to worry about right now. We're just concerned with the sound file, and that's this .mth file. So I'm going to close that, or minimize rather. Now to update the sound file in the locomotive, we want to go up to this first button on the far left here. We want to click on that, and then we want to click on Start. And if it doesn't take you to the location where you have that .mth file, you're going to have to navigate to it. So then you're just going to highlight that, click Open, and now down here you're going to see all kinds of stuff coming up, and that's just, it's starting to erase the memory and rewrite the new memory with the new sound file. So this is where it can take, I mean, I've had some of these that take up to like 45 minutes. So I'll keep the cameras going, and hopefully I don't run out of batteries. I did do a full charge, got a new SD card in, so hopefully we're set here. But I'm just going to let this run, and well, I'm going to watch the percent complete right here. And it gives you the time that it started. It gives you the estimated time to 21 minutes. Some other things I've noticed with this is it's going to start out fast, and then depending on your computer, speed, things like that, it may actually start lowering the baud rate on the communication on the port, which is the USB connection between your laptop and your DCS TIU. So I get some messages that come up occasionally asking, you know, do you want to move to the slower interface, and you know, you just click yes. So that 21-minute estimate right there can turn out to be 45, or it could be 21. So we'll see how this goes, but just going to let this roll, and see you guys in a little bit. Okay, we're just about finished up here. Just turn that smoke unit off. And we're going to do a power cycle on this, and then I'm going to remove it from the handheld, and then we'll power everything back up again. Do power down. Okay, I'm gonna remove that. Delete. Okay, 30. Select confirm, delete it. Alright, we're going to power this down now. Then we're going to do a power cycle in the DCS TIU. Okay, powered up. Let's add it back in. Add it back to 30. Do a shutdown. I do have to oil that smoke unit. Alright. Let's turn it back on. Turn the volume down, turn the smoke unit off. Okay, interior lights. Okay, they work. Ditch lights, don't have ditch lights on this. Number boards work.
Looks like we got a 4D on the way.
Oh, I'm not seeing marker lights in here. Right, front rear lights work. Alright, well, I think we're going to move forward with the build anyway, and I'm going to work on that later. Alright guys, so something that just came to me as I was trying to get all of these labeled up, all the LEDs labeled up with respect to the push buttons on the remote, and some of them not working. I think what I need to do is update the chain file, which is this flash button up in here. So we're going to give that a shot. So we're going to click flash, start, and then we're going to go to the location where we have where we unpack that zip file. And it's right in here. So now I'm going to click on chain. Now this one, I'm trying to remember how long this one takes, but what this is going to do is realign the handheld button functions to the new LEDs in the sound file. So we're going to do this. I think this one's actually pretty quick, so it's going to do some power cycles, turn on, shut off, and again, that's writing all the information down in here. It was, it doesn't erase. It erases the previous program file, and then it rewrites the new one. So let's see. It's going to do a power cycle now. So you'll hear the TIU click on and off. So I think we'll have to reset this in the handheld again once this programs. But it should give us the control of the lights, the interior lights, some of the other ones that didn't really seem to line up correctly. Okay, so now we just did a reset on the TIU, and it just turned itself back on now. That's typical with FPGAs, which is basically the brains of that circuit board, and the memory attached to them, where you do a power cycle after programming. Okay, the beeping's normal after doing the chain file update. That's just indicating that the chain file took it properly, or that was changed, I believe. Okay, so just did a reboot, and then we hear the beeps coming from it. That's normal. That again just means that the file took, the chain file took, and that it was updated. So now we're going to go in. I did delete the existing existing file from the handheld. Let's just go in here, system engine setup, add. Okay, engine added, so it added back as 30. Go back to that. We'll do a shutdown. Okay. Let's do that control. We're going to do a startup again. I'm going to shut that smoke unit off till. There we go. Okay. Turn the volume down a little bit. Horn works. Bell works. Okay. Interior lights now work. Can you see them? Let's see. Let me bring this back a little bit. Here we go. I shouldn't push that like that, but I'm going to get that in camera for you. Alright, so interior light is off. Cab lights are off. Now they're on. And they're off. And on. Okay, so those work now. Let's check. What else do we have on here? Number board lights. Okay, looks like we have something turning on and off now. So number board lights are working. Okay, and I should probably mark them. Actually, I know that already. Okay, at least for the front ones, because they are part of the front headlight harness. So let's see, the front's okay. Let's find your number board. So we're going to put it in reverse. Okay, here's the tail lights that just came on. Now, the number board should be on. Okay, so I think what I'm going to have to do is we'll take, there are two connectors for the number boards on that front harness. It's kind of coming back to me now. I think in some of them I had to run a long wire to the back, and that's fine. We can do that. So I'll go ahead and we'll do that. Let's see. We got the interior light. Let me turn that back on. The number board, make sure that number boards go on. Okay. Let's go to LIN, interior. Okay, interior lights are on. Marker lights. Board, I'm just looking through here to see if there's anything that any buttons I can push to get them to come on. This may not have them, so I may need to work something out for them. I think I'll figure that out. But in the meantime, everything else looks pretty good. Let's see what we've got out here. Well, we'll figure that one out. Because I want to get those marker lights in. Now, I think I may have ran into this with one of my other ones, my Burlington Northern, where I had to change the sound file to get the function. That one actually had the beacon light on it that I was trying to get to work, and that took a little bit of time to figure out, going through different files to try it, but see if we can get that working too. So I think I've pretty much figured it out now. I was going back and forth, spent some time trying different files, different sound files for different locomotives. I really wanted to get these marker lights working, and it was a little bit of fun trying to find that file that worked. So eventually I did find a couple that worked. I found a GP30, was one of the first ones that I found, and again, this is a GP20. Things worked on that, but I was doing some reading on that, and it sounds like the GP9, as far as sound goes, compared to a GP20, was a little bit closer to GP20 rather. That is, using a GP9. So I did find a GP9 sound file, and it's on the MTH website. I don't know if you can see it on the computer here, but just to kind of show you. So this one's a Santa Fe. It's a high hood GP9, and to kind of show you, how I've researched these as well, to try to find something with all the lights and things like that that I want. typically I find if you're looking at a locomotive that's more recent, like this one's delivered 2023, it's a brand new one, so you know, there's a really good chance it's going to have all the bells and whistles that you want. The older ones from like the 2015 catalogs, things like that, they may not have the marker lights and things like that, ditch lights if you're looking for that. Unfortunately, MTH does not catalog all these different features and bells and whistles with respect to the sound files. So you're kind of on your own hunting and, you know, looking for what you want. But, you know, something I've done too is I'll go on, like, you know, one of the major sellers of these MTH locomotives, look on their websites and just see, you know, what's being offered, or, you know, what are the current runs of models? What do they look like? Do they have ditch lights? Do they have the marker lights that you want? Or maybe there's a beacon light you're looking for, something like that, and then take that part number and put that into the MTH search file, or search location rather, for trying to find the files. You know, you put that right in here, enter the keywords, and hope that it comes up with something that you can use. So again, we're going to use the Protosound 3 file. I did already load this. I didn't want to put you guys through the agony of watching this again, but I did not do anything different than before. I just spent quite a few hours trying different sound files and you know, loading it up and seeing how it worked out. So anyway, this worked out, and we are now going to take it to the bench and continue the rest of this. We're going to get the LEDs put into the shell, but let me just take you over here and show you what we got. Take the camera off the tripod here. Apologies for any shakiness here. Try to get it in nicely. All right. All right. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and start this up. And again, I left this as address 30 for now. I did not program in anything, any naming or cab numbers or anything like that. So we're going to do a start up. Start that up. And take a look at what we got here. So we've got the headlights out here. I'm going to put it in reverse so you see those go out. But you see the headlights down there, they went out. These other ones over here, the number boards, turn the headlight back on, put it back and forward. And I get to call up the number board, that's LNB on the handheld. So off, on, so those work, and that's front and rear. So we got those. We got a beacon on here. I'm not going to use it, but it's there. What I found is, at least from the handheld, I don't see a control for this. I'll have to look. Maybe it's buried in the menu somewhere, but there's no way for me to turn that off. But it doesn't matter. I'm not going to use it anyway. I'm just going to disconnect that LED. You got over here the tail lights. So again, we'll put that in reverse. Tail lights come on, or backwards headlights, whatever you want to call them. Not sure. Put that back and forward. And now these guys. This is what killed me. trying to find these. So on the handheld, there's a button called LMK. That's the lights for the markers. So we're going to turn that off, and they go off. They're kind of dim. I don't know if you can see them very well. And they're back on. Once we get it in the shell, you'll be able to see it a little bit better. So they are finally working. We've got the cap lights here. Let me call that up. There we go. So, interior light on, interior light off. Okay, now this button's on this quick reference on the main menu. You get 16 functions on here. I just must have passed it. Oh, there it is. It's right there. LIN. Okay. So LIN, interior lights on, interior lights off.
Go ahead and get ready to pull out.
Something I found was kind of interesting with this, and maybe you guys in the comments can tell me, but apparently this GP9 has, at least this file, this sound file, has a special whistle, and that's this SPW. So I'm going to hit that, and then you can hear this. It's kind of weird. Not sure if that was something that was unique to a GP9. Again, maybe you guys can leave a comment on that if you know. Just found that interesting. So Let's see, we got some other sounds on here. We got the standard forward, double tap horn, the reverse, crossing. And I have the volume turned down now too. And in addition to that, we still have that piece of tape on there. So once we take the tape off, get it in the shell, turn the volume up, it should sound pretty good. Let's see what else we got in here. Well, we got the smoke unit, and I am going to fix that. Again, we're going to put a little bit of oil on that. I think it's not a bearing, it's just a little brass fitting in there that the motor goes through. So we'll get some oil on that, get that quieted up a bit. But that works. I think that's pretty much it. I did try it. Again, no grease on the motors, so I don't want to run it really too long. All right, just going to shut that off. And let's see, and if you MTH guys, you're probably aware of this button if you're running DCS, but you got the STW button. That's the train wreck button, the stop train wreck, STW. So we'll hit that one to lead us into taking this off of the layout and bringing it onto the bench. Oh, again, I forget if I mentioned this or not, but I got a bunch of unused LEDs on here. I'm going to just cut these wires back and remove them from the harness once we get back on the bench, and just to clean up the harness a little bit more because they're not being used, so it'll thin this wiring out a little bit. But with that, we'll do the train wreck and get this back on the bench and start putting the LEDs in the shell. Okay guys, so here we are back at the bench. We've got everything laid out here. We're going to get ready to start installing the LEDs into the shell. We do need to take the old LEDs and incandescent lights out of there first and clean that up a bit, and then we'll get those in there. But before we do that, I just wanted to tie up some loose ends here before I forget. So the one thing I wanted to do was take a look at the smoke unit and just put a little bit of oil down on the brass bushing that's down in here. So we're going to take the motor out, just drop it down a little bit, and put a little bit of oil on there. Same type of oil, at least I use the same type of oil that I would use for the cars. For the wheels on the cars, it's just turbo oil. I don't know. I don't remember when I got this, but it seems to work well, so I'm going to go with that. And I just put a tiny little drop on the brass bushing inside when we pull the motor out. So we'll get to that, and we're also going to grease up these motors before I forget. So we'll take those out, we'll put some grease in there, and get that all set up. I just wanted to say too that the type of grease that I use is just wheel bearing grease, nothing fancy. I figured, you know, if it's good enough for my car, it's probably good enough for my train, so I'm just going to use that. And that's something I have used on all of my locomotive projects. So let's get into this. Also, I do use this little pump tool here to get the grease down into the truck. So again, I don't remember where I got this. It's probably like an Amazon or eBay buy, but nothing fancy. Just pack the grease in here, and if it works right, which sometimes it doesn't, you just push on this and you get a little bit of grease out of it. So we're gonna grease these up now. I like to just square a little bit down in here, get some on the drive gear, maybe roll it a little bit. Make sure you get the drive gear nice and coated. And then I'll stick a little bit down at the bottom there too. And roll that around, make sure that drive gear is covered. I'm going to put a little bit on this worm gear on the motor itself. Once everything meshes, it'll coat, but I just want to put a little bit on there. And try not to get that all over the frame like I'm doing there. Rotate the flywheel a little bit. You can feel it's a lot smoother now. The wheels are spinning nicely. Okay, looks good. I'll get the back one done. You can see that spins nice and free now. Alright, while I'm here, I'm just going to clean up these coils a little bit here. I'm going to tighten this up too. be careful not to, actually, you know what, not even gonna mess with it. I'm just gonna put a little tape on there so I don't thing up the truck. Alright, so the motors are greased up. Tighten back up into the trucks there. So let's get onto the smoke unit. Get a little bit of oil on that bushing. Okay, so we're just going to take off these two screws here that hold the motor chamber on. You know, I'm trying to be careful here not to pull this too much because we've got all the wires dressed in, so they're pretty tightly wrapped in there and routed. So again, I don't want to pull them off the bottom of the motor. Let's see, what we're going to do here is we're going to take this black impeller off, and then we're going to take a little bit of this oil and just one drop, maybe two, right down on the shaft there. So I've made this tiny little tool out of a piece of brass. It's got two little hooks on the end of it, and it's long enough to get down underneath of impeller there. Pretty much like a pulley puller on a car if you've ever used one. You just want to get underneath of it, and it's a little difficult to get under because that's a pretty tight fit in there. Sorry if that's a little hard to see, but I'm gonna try to catch those little hooks underneath. There we go. It feels like it's in, so I'm gonna give it a little pull, and it came off on the one side. Really want to try to have that centered. Pull it. There we go. Off. Nice and easy, right? The other way to do this, which is a real pain, is to actually have a really tiny screwdriver that goes through these holes to get these tiny little, almost like eyeglasses size screws in there, and then that drops the whole motor out, and you could pull the motor out of the housing on the back, and this fan or impeller will slide right off. But after doing this many times, I realized there's got to be an easier way, so I came up with this, and like I said, it works out great for me. So all we're going to do now is put a little bit of oil. It's really hard to see. I can't pull this motor up too much, too close to the camera, but there's a little brass bushing in there. Try to move this around a little bit so you can see down at the bottom, and then the motor shaft comes up through that. So we're just going to put a couple drops of oil down on that. Just let it ride down the shaft of the motor, and then this should do it. Okay, so I put more than one or two on there. I just kind of let it drip down on there. That'll be okay. Put this back on. There's really nothing else we can do with this other than, you know, cross our fingers and hopes that it quiets it up. So like I said, in the past it's worked pretty well for me, so I keep going with it. We'll just spin that a couple times, help it work down in there. And again, this just pushes on. That's it. It's that simple. Feels a little bit smoother. So we'll see how it sounds. And once it's covered by the shell anyway, it should quiet it down a little bit. But so let's get this back in now. And now's a good time. I can actually show you this gasket that I was mentioning earlier. It's like a piece of cardboard. Again, if you're cork, maybe if you ever worked on cars like valve cover gaskets, you'll have a cork gasket. And I believe MTH usually RTVs it on smoke unit chamber side or the wick chamber side, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, so some smoke units I've come across have RTV on both sides where somebody's, you know, been in there to change the wick and decided to put it on both sides, and then when you go to pull that off, this whole piece just separates and comes apart. So that is if the RTV is holding on both sides. So anyway, we're gonna get that back on, and you can see that gasket up in there too a little bit. So I want to make sure that I don't break that gasket because I don't have any more right now to replace that. So that gasket is right there. Just going to slide this up to make sure that that sits flat. We'll start the screws on the other side, and then we'll tighten everything up again. We'll pull it all together and then tighten, just like we did earlier. I'm going to take this all and pinch it together as I tighten it. Alright, that looks good. So I just remembered one more thing we gotta tune up here. Let's get this screw in for the fuel tank down below, because I only have the one screw holding that in right now. And it's gonna go in this hole right here. So I'll take care of that now. So now we are ready to get into the shell and start mounting the lights, the LEDs. I think what we'll do is we'll move this out of the way, and we'll bring the shell over and just go over this real quick. So a couple things here. This black funnel, I think for now what I'm going to do is actually leave this in here just to keep this build going. I did get the parts from MTH, and they are a little bit narrower. Like these are height-wise, these are a little taller. So it's not a problem. I can go in and shim the smoke unit with the washers like we did when we set it up. We put some washers down between the smoke unit and the frame. So I'll have to do that, but in the interest of keeping the video going and getting this on the track and running, I think we're going to stick with what we got. The shell that I got that out of, I'm not doing anything with that one just yet. So we've got a little bit of time to use this one for now and just to keep this going. So we're going to leave that in there, and we're going to take out the old lights. I believe these are incandescent. So the PS3 unit for the headlights and the taillights is designed to work with LEDs. So we've got to take these incandescents out. And again, these big blocks right here, this was part of the system where we pulled the circuit boards, the little tiny boards off of the chassis in the beginning. That it just makes it's a cleaner installation, or easier to service when you have to take the shell off. You don't have to worry about all the wires. Like when we finish here, there's going to be a lot of wires with all the connectors hanging off of the shell that will then plug into the chassis when we connect everything up and put it back together. So it's a nice feature, but this is going to have a lot more lights in it than just a headlight and a tail light. So we'll have the marker lights, number board lights, cab lights are pre-installed on the motor shroud there, so we don't have to worry about that. If you put a beacon in, you'd have that up here too. All right, let's get to it. Let's see if I can just touch it with the glue gun and heat it. Just enough to soften it up a little bit. Yeah, that works. All right, and then the incandescents just pull right out. There is a little black piece of heat shrink around the headlight. I don't know what you call that, bezel diffuser in there. So I'm gonna have to pop that out because I like to glue all that together and put it in as one unit. So let's do this. There we go. All right, so this is what I was after right here, this piece. And yeah, these are just, I guess, diffusers. The LEDs slide into the back, and this is just heat shrink over it. So we'll cut that off and then put the new LEDs in, glue it all back up, and reinstall it. So this is what we want right here, and that's what it looks like. So now I'll go over here and we'll get the headlight LED set, which is going to be on the blue connector. Alright, so I like to use the same LEDs that I tested with, if at all possible, just because you know that they work. We had it on the track, we programmed it, we tested everything looked good. So now we're just going to take these and slide them in, just like that. And I like to put, again, some hot glue right on there and hold that together. And then we heat shrink it. You could do either or first, it doesn't matter. But since I have the hot glue gun out, let me see if I can do this. I want to hot glue these first, or at least get a little bit on there. So that way when we put the heat shrink on, we don't have to worry about, did the LED move inside the heat shrink where it's kind of hard to see. So we'll get it started this way. A little bit of tape. So get some heat shrink for that now. Alright, so this is a piece of 3/8 heat shrink to 3:1 shrink that I have. We're going to just cut it just enough to really cover, back here with the heat shrink where that's on the wires, and then up to the edge of the diffuser. Doesn't have to be perfect. Something like that. This should be good. Okay, so let's shrink this down. I want to try to get the heat shrink as close to this little edge here as possible, because that's what's going to sit up against the shell when it gets installed. I don't want to go over it because then the diffuser won't fit all the way into the shell. Get as close as we can. Now I'm looking at this now. This is a different type of heat shrink than I typically use. It looks a little bit thicker. I hope it doesn't hang up anywhere in the shell, but we'll find out. Oh, I forgot. This heat shrink does have glue and an adhesive inside of it, so I see that now melting. Alright, there we have it. So now let's go ahead and see if that fits in the shell. Don't know how well you're going to be able to see this, if at all. These holes right back, right above the windshield where my finger's at. So that's where this is going to go. Again, really hard to see, so just want to at least try to show you where. But if you're in there, it is pretty obvious where it goes, so I don't think you'll have any problems with it. And this heat shrink may be a little bit too thick to fit up in there, unfortunately. I don't want to have to take this apart again, but I may have to. So I'm actually going to shut the camera down and try to finagle this one in there. There's not much you can really see right here anyway, so let's give that a shot. So what I'm doing is just little by little taking a little bit of the heat shrink off on the top and the bottom sides of this. So again, this does have an adhesive inside, so the sides will hold it together. It's wrapped pretty good around the wires. Not too worried about it coming out once we get it in there. Just need to get that in there to sit evenly. So I'm just going to keep whittling away at this a little bit, trying it, and going to get that in there. Okay, so I did get it in there. I had to just keep whittling away at the heat shrink to get that to go in so that it would clear the top of the shell, and then there's a little recessed area in there that has to clear to get in. So you can see it's in there. Well, maybe you can't see it right now, but the diffuser is pushed all the way in. So now we're going to dress that in and give a little bit of hot glue on the wires in here. All right, so actually before I glue that down, I'm going to hit that with a little bit of tape and hold that in, because we still have to put the number board lights on, and I'll probably want to glue them all down together at the same time. Again, tape and hot glue are your friends when doing this. That's what I've learned. Let's get the number board lights in. All right, so something I found with the number board LEDs, when you go to put them in, not every PS1 to PS3 converter is going to have some kind of bracket to hold the LEDs in place directly behind the number boards. So it's a little bit hard to see. There's the two darker areas down at the bottom there. So what I found, as I usually do, is once again try to just hot glue these guys in there as best you can. It does not look pretty from the inside. After I'm done, I'll usually try to hit it with a Sharpie or a black paint pen, something to kind of just help the light coming back into the cab from the number boards. So I'm going to do these off camera just because I don't think I'm really going to be able to show you the angle, but let me get one done, and then I'll show you what I did, and we'll go over that, and I'll get the next one done, and then we can move on to the back.